These are just some of the games we have on our game night every Monday at the Fat Rabbit at 6, and we'll show you what we got in today just in a little bit, but just a few of them. We have 2 other boxes. Actually, we got a bunch of small boxes up there, and we also have another box I'm not showing you here, but we have a whole bunch of games on Mondays. But here's what came in today. We finally got Mysterium back in. This one's been super popular. It's like a combination of Dixit, if you know that game, and Clue, which everybody knows. Basically, it's a game where one person's the ghost, the dead ghost, and they're trying to give all these psychic investigators visions. What happened to them, who killed them, what room, all the Clue tropes. Basically, they do that with these little cards, and they try to give them ideas, and they try to solve the mystery. It's real unique, real cool addition to any game collection because it's so unique. It is kind of social, and it's a cooperative type game. We also got Catan, modern classic. We got that back in. We got a bunch of different expansions. If you're fairly new to games, Settlers of Catan has a whole bunch of different expansions for it. There's like the Star Trek version. There's the Family Catan. The only real difference is between the regular Catan and the Family Catan is you can't use any of the expansions with the Family version, but it's a bit more affordable. It's a bit more of a affordable price point. So if you never intend to have any of the expansions at all, like that's one option. There's also Catan Junior as well, and the travel versions are actually really cool. It's like a little portable version, and actually has rules for 2 players, which Catan traditionally doesn't unless you go online and look for the rules. And what else we got in? We got Stone Age, the expansion, creative name for expansion. Basically, this does add another player, which is covered up with a weird symbol. But yeah, it does add another player, but also adds like crafting to the mix, so it adds a little variety to the game. You also got another classic back in finally. It's been out since Christmas. You got Battleship back in. We got Jaws, not a game, but this is one of the coolest reaction figures that I've seen come out of there. But it's a real cool looking version of the classic iconic great white Jaws. So that one's really cool. I wish I could get more of those in, but they only had a very limited amount, unfortunately. We got Lords of Waterdeep back in. This one's a super popular Euro style with American flavor as far as like the fantasy world, but that one's been real popular. Codenames is one of our best-selling games, and it has been for last probably since Christmas. This is a game where pretty much everybody could get involved. It's a game where you're trying to give passwords and get people to guess certain words, which is on a grid of cards, and you're trying to get them to guess as many as you can and try to guess the correct pattern before your team does. So I've seen a lot of gamers that really like this, and a lot of what we call casual gamers or family gamers or whatever you want to call them. So just pretty much it's everybody's been liking this one. We got Axis and Allies 1942 back in. We also have the 1941 version, so we got 2 different versions of Axis and Allies. The 1942 is a little bit more heavy, a little more expensive, and it has a lot more bits in it, so it's a little bit more complex. We also got New York 1901. This is on my must playlist. I just have not gotten to it yet, but it's some people. I've seen some posts where people say, "Oh, it's a good replacement for Ticket to Ride." I guess they're talking about the simplicity and easy to get into the game because there's really nothing like Ticket to Ride. But this is a real one you definitely want to check out. And we also got the Game of Thrones expansion. This is for the living card game. The King piece, we got that in. And we sold out of Seasons, and we got that back in. Plus, we did get a couple of the expansions. Got the Enchanted Kingdom and Path of Destiny. A couple of years ago, this one was real popular. So if you like card games with different effects, Magic the Gathering type of thing, but totally different. This might be a good one to look into. We also got Ticket to Ride Europe back in. We also got the 1910 expansion, which is for the US one. We also have the 1912 currently, and that's basically for the Europe. Basically adds more cards, and then some of the cards are actually larger. So that's it's kind of nice and helpful. A lot of people like that one. We also got the map, basically it's the United Kingdom map plus Pennsylvania. There's a double-sided map in there. Basically, any of the Ticket to Ride maps that you get, which we got a bunch of them down there. I don't know if we can see them. Basically, any of those you need the base game to start to use it at all. It's because it uses the trains and some other bits from it. But each one tends to mix things up quite a bit. So you also got Matoani, whatever you say that. We got this, and a lot of people they claim to be like the spiritual successor of Glory to Rome. If you're not familiar with that game, is like real popular, and people kept asking for it. So when people ask about it, I kind of was like, man, we might want to give this one a shot, because it's claiming to be a spiritual successor. And I had some people that bought it, and they seemed to really like it. So there's two different versions. This is the deluxe version. This one, basically, the only difference between the deluxe and the other versions, like you have more players playing it. You also got Boss Monster back in. Boss Monster has a couple of versions and an expansion. We got Boss Monster 2, and this is like a real fancy version of Boss Monster 2. It has like special cards in it, and it has like some foil cards, some holograms, I believe. But it's basically, effectively, they play the same, but this one's just a lot nicer. Boss Monster 2 is a standalone or an expansion, so you could start with 2 if you wanted to, or you start with 1. And we also got those little mini expansion tools of the hero kind, so we got that as well. And what else we got over here? We got, if you're into the Pathfinder Adventure card game, we got the new Barbarian class in. It finally came out. And let's see what else. Back into role playing, we got a bunch of Pathfinder stuff in. Someone kind of cleaned us out a bunch of modules and things like that. Got the this pawn box. We got a few of them over there. This is the Bestiary 2 pawn box. These are really nice, even if you play Dungeons and Dragons or either one of them. This has a whole bunch of pawns you can use. Basically, they're like the stand-up things you use for your traditional type board games. They have the creature and the little stands, that sort of thing. So it's really nice if you need a bunch of monsters just to hold the place and look decent, and you don't want to mess around with the 3D little minis. Like the minis like those, which you tend to have to paint and all that stuff. These are just really nice just to get things going, and you have something in place, and it's a little more inexpensive than going the mini route and painting and all that fun stuff, so it gets you going there. And we got a bunch of the books in, got a bunch of the modules back in, which we got cleaned out pretty good on. Let's see, we got the Plunder of Peril in. We got the Realm of Fell Knight Queen. Let's see what else we got. The Down the Blight Path in, Daughters of Fury. We got Warden of Reborn Force. And who comes with the titles? Let's see. We've got Tears of Bitter Mansion. Manor, not Mansion. We got Dragon's Demand. Broken Chains. Thangwood Keep. The Midnight Mirror. Got a whole bunch of them in here, as you can tell. See, the Ruby Phoenix Tournament. Some of these are going to be a little bit more, and some are pretty inexpensive. Actually, they're all fairly inexpensive. Let's see. These are, we tend to round these up. These are, you can see this. These are, yeah, $13.99 for the thinner ones. I believe the other thicker ones were $24.99. So you got Witch War. So you got tons of them. Okay, that's got all those. And you got the GM screen, of course. You can't, every GM needs a GM screen. And for the base books, you got the Bestiary 3, Bestiary 4, and the Advanced Races, and the Player's Guide, and the original bestiary. If you're not familiar with Pathfinder, basically, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder was based on the 3.5 edition of the rules for Dungeons and Dragons. So there's like a lot of similarities. So if you've played the old versions, you know, a lot of people feel right at home with this. See, when they with the 4th edition for D&D, a lot of people, there's a good number of people did not like the new changes. So a lot of people jumped over the Pathfinder. So that's why that became kind of popular. And we finally got some, you know, play mats in. Got all these back in, these in for, like, mostly these are used for, like, Magic Gathering type players. These are nice, basically think of these as, like, giant mouse pads. So they're kind of slick, but they have, like, nice traction on that side. We got a few different styles. Got the, you know, if you run a green deck, got the life type one, got the water symbol, got the skull for black or swamps. Yeah, that's a good one for the plains. You know, of course, we got the fire and mountains, and got some really cool looking ones here. This is the let's see it. Oh, toil, double and trouble. So these are really cool looking ones. And got the quoth the raven, and this one's upside down, and got this weird cool creature thing. But yeah, finally got those in for mostly for Magic players, but you can use them for other games as well. And finally, we got the big mats. A lot of these are used for X-Wing. We got a couple different types. Show you a couple of them, because there's like some pros and cons. We just had a customer in here not too long ago, and we was like looking at them, trying to see what the differences were. These are the ones by Gale Force. These are his playmats by Gale Force. It has some real nice looking prints, so they look real nice on the table. But it is thin like that, and the whole thing could slide. But there's like an option or a good fix like for that. It's like just a little double-sided painter's tape on the bottom, and it'll stay in place if that's an issue. Odds are it might not be. But if it is an issue, that's one way to fix it. But the big pros on this one versus the one under it, which I'll show you in a second, is like it has like its texture, so it doesn't really, you know, pieces kind of stay in place where they need to. They don't like slide too far. So if you bump it a little bit, it's not going to go clear across the table. And this one here, this one's almost like a mouse pad. It's like a thick mouse pad, kind of like the other ones, but a little bit thicker actually. As you can actually see the the texture on the bottom of it, so it's going to grip the table. The whole thing is not going to move around, but it does have a real smooth surface, just like a mouse pad would. So things can move around pretty easily. For some people, that's good, and some people would like things to hold in place a little bit. So, which is, if you want things to hold in place a bit, this one's probably the better route. And let's see, we also have this nice, huge one. These are 36. Both of these are 36 by 36, but it also has this giant 48 by 48 one. We're trying to get some other ones. Different print styles of that one, but this one's like huge, so it doesn't even fit on the table we have here. So it's kind of nice. The Gale Force ones, like I showed you, there's like all sorts of different style. I just sold the one that looks like basically a gas cloud nebula, and this one was kind of a, what do you call it, Frozen Planet was the name of it, I believe. So it has a nice little planet, a little star field to play on. This one's kind of like a Death Star. They call it the let's see, Battle Station Moon. So it's very Death Star-y, so you want to fight on top of the Death Star with your X-Wing figures. That'd be a good one to go with. Then we got a couple other ones, a little plain old Starfield. This one's called Deep Space, and it's kind of a nice little storage tube, so it kind of holds in place and sort of portability, so it's going to hold up. You just roll it back up and it's ready to go. And this one is the asteroid field, so it's like deep space, kind of like the other one is, except there's some asteroids on there, which I cannot see. Oh, there's one. There's one asteroid you can see in there, But you almost see, I'm not sure if you can tell in this picture, but you can almost see the texture on the top, on the surface of this. So that keeps the pieces from sliding around too much if you want them to slide too easy, which you really don't want that to happen on a X-Wing. We was looking at another video someone else did, an open box of the actual Fantasy Flight version. This one's not the Fantasy Flight version. It's a different company. One of the things they pointed out is like the corners are rounded, and this one is square, which is nice because if you get a couple of these and bump them up together, they're not going to you can bump them up without worry about weird rounded corners having gaps. And that's about it. So we will talk to you next time. Bye.